Somebody asked me a question about REIT. In this episode, we're going to talk about REIT. Um, we're going to talk about how REIT is being formed. Is REIT investment for you? And also, I'm going to tell you what do I think about investing in REITs. So, what is REIT? REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. This is one of the passive way of investing in real estate because it involves no active work for investors. For someone that have money and just wants to have a return of investment from their money, this is one of the options for them. REIT is one of the options for them if they just want to get into real estate investing, right? For active investors, it may not be a good choice for them because, as you know, you can make more money in doing the work yourself for as long as you are for as long as you know what you are doing. Now, your second question is that how is REIT being formed? Uh, REIT is being formed by a group of people that owns a different asset class. It can be a corporation, right? For example, investor that owns a single family home, a multi-family home, or a commercial properties, and they would seek for investors to invest with them for them to grow their portfolio, and in return they would pay them the investors a percentage, or they would pay them in a form of a dividends, right? uh, Whichever um, their contract entails, right? So that's how they form REITs. And now your next question would be: is it safe? Is REIT safe? How safe is REIT investment? Um, I'm going to tell you a story about how I lost money on a REIT, and so that you can decide for yourself, right? Uh, so here's my story. About 8 years ago, there was this big known developer here in Toronto that offers a REIT investment through a syndicated mortgages, and what they do is that they seek for investors to and they raise money in order for them to build these projects. Right, I was one of the investors, and I was shown the pro forma and pro forma, and a pro forma is just basically means is just the a projected business analysis or statements showing how they would intend for the investors to make money, right? So I was one of them investors who invested in these projects because of their name, right? And the main reason why I invested in this developer is because of the rate of return, and also I was promised that that my name would be on the title, right? So being your name on the title is very important because if something were to go wrong, right, you can recover your money, because if the business gets sold, or on the exit, whoever is on the title will get paid, right? But the mistake that I made was that I didn't realize that even though that I was on the title, I didn't realize the implication of being in the second position on the title, because at the second position, if there's no money left over, or if there's no money left over from the first position, there's no money to be paid on the second position on the paid out, right? So short story, this developer run into a hiccup, right? And somewhere along the line, they miscalculated the expenses, and they run out of money, right? So they have to sell the business, and they have to file for bankruptcy. So this is where everything went sideways for me, right? Uh, they obviously had to sell the company for loss, and I was only able to recover half of the money that I invested, because there was no leftover on the first, being on the from the first position, right? So is REIT investment bad? No, I still invest in a REITs, but the only difference is that I am more experienced now, and I know what to look for if I have to invest in a REIT, so that I don't make the same mistake, right? Um, for the audience here, there in the Philippines, right? Another good example of a REIT is in the Philippines. Is a condotel, because there's a lot of developers right now from the Philippines that would come here in a Toronto, and they would sell projects in the Philippines, right? One of the big thing that the trying to sell now is the condotel. So they seek for investors, and you make money on the profit, right? So if the hotel makes money, you also makes money too, right? But the problem in that setup is that if you are Canadian, for example, myself, right, who reside here in Canada, how trustworthy is the people that are managing the expenses, right? Because from my experience dealing in the Philippines, when I was selling a property in the Philippines, is that there's a lot of red tapes, right? And it's very hard to have an access to a concrete information. So that is one thing of the disadvantages of investing in REITs, because you have no physical control of the investments, um, and you're relying on other people, right? Having said that, if you're going to invest in a REITs, make sure that you understand the following, right? Number one, know your exit strategy, because the longer exposure that you have in the investments, the more riskier it gets because of the market fluctuation and of volatility, right? Second, understand what type of ownership you have, um, the share and the control that you have in the company, and only invest in the company that have a track record. If you're in North America, ETFs, REITs is one of the safest to invest in because of their track record, and it's also managed by a professional.